Hi, everyone, and thank you for watching On Call for All Kids. Today, we're going to be talking about 4th of July safety. We'll be going over the biggest concerns for this year's 4th of July, the most common injuries seen from fireworks, and general tips to keep your family safe. I'm joined by Dr. Patrick Mulroney. He's an emergency medicine physician at Johns Hopkins All Children's. Great to see you, Dr. Mulroney.
Hi, Ashley.
So this year's a little bit different. We are in the middle of a pandemic. What are your concerns as a physician for this year's 4th of July?
Well, the extra concerns associated with 4th of July are obviously injuries secondary to fireworks. You know, children love fireworks, and a lot of adult males turn into children around fireworks. And every year we worry about fireworks, but especially with COVID this year, you know, a lot of cities and municipalities have had to cancel their public fireworks. So that's good for social distancing. But what's going to happen is I think that a lot more families are going to be lighting off fireworks at home. And fireworks are actually very dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous holiday traditions we have here in the United States. You know, according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, 2,600 children in 2018 ended up in the emergency center secondary to firework injuries. And you'd think that that's associated with fireworks that shoot in the air or explode, but many of those are from fireworks that you can buy at a local grocery store.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. You can also get sparklers there. Those are so common and they're so much fun, but you've mentioned before they could be really dangerous too.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sparklers. You know, you think about who's going to use sparklers. I mean, the whole family likes them, but it's mostly the little kids that we're giving them to. And little kids don't have the coordination to be holding a sparkler. And what ends up happening is you're handing a wire to a 5-year-old. And at the end of that wire, you have something burning that's at like 1,500 to 3,000 degrees. So I don't say don't do sparklers, but if you're going to have sparklers at home, you're going to have like a team meeting beforehand and really explain to the children what's necessary. I think the first thing that you need to tell them is that they need to keep their arm extended if they're going to have a sparkler. So they're not allowed to bend their elbow. So as long as the elbow isn't bent, then the sparkler's farther away from them. The second thing is that they need to stay in one space. Don't walk around with the sparkler. But then also you can't run, jump, sword fight with it, do anything else because sparklers can burn you.
Let's talk about just some of the other common injuries you've mentioned. Fireworks are very dangerous. What are the most common injuries that you see come into the EC around this time of year?
The first is going to be burns. You know, anything that is a firework is creating fire, and those sparklers do cause burns. And the thing that most parents don't think about, and children definitely don't think about, is that wire remains really hot even though the firework's done. So the child sees that the firework's gone, they feel that can be touched. So they'll reach out and touch that part of the wire and then really burn themselves. The second one with that is that children will walk across another child who's playing with a sparkler and you end up with burns in the eyes. You know, the other injuries that you see are those blast injuries, and blast injuries are very dangerous and can lead to fatalities. You know, with fireworks that shoot in the air or explode, many people will start to play with those on 4th of July. And some of the worst injuries that are seen are when people don't allow those things to be shot off the ground. They actually hold the mortars in their hands or attach them to things, trying to make things a little bit more exciting than they actually are. And that can actually lead to really bad injuries. So if you're going to be lighting off any of these fireworks that shoot in the air or big fountains, you need to create a perimeter around that area. You need to kind of set things up that if you're going to have people watching the display, they need to be socially distanced this year, but they need to be separated from where the fireworks are going off, and that needs to be a designated space. Then the person who's going to be lighting the fireworks needs to have a perimeter where you're entering that perimeter, you're lighting the firework, and then you're quickly getting out of the way, because if that firework malfunctions and there's an explosion close to the ground, you need to be far away so that doesn't affect you.
And how about some final takeaways as people are getting together, you know, with their families, having more gatherings? Do you have, you know, some final safety tips for them?
Right. And, you know, this year, everything's different, and we want to be together, and we want to celebrate Independence Day. And there could be some problems associated with that. We've got to make sure we continue physical distancing. We've got to make sure that we're wearing masks when we can't create that distancing, especially if there's going to be larger groups. And one thing that we need to be really careful of, you know, with all the stress that's going on, people want to get together. And we're seeing at the hospital many more drownings in young children over the past 4 months. And we really need to be cognizant of water safety. If you're going to be getting together around the water, yes, that is time to be with adults, but you need to be watching the children. You know, we end up with these situations where maybe a couple families get together for a pool party or go to the beach, and the adults are together and everybody's around the water and they feel like everybody's watching the children. when in fact no one's watching the children. So because we're seeing a big increase in drowning over the last 4 months, we really need to really hit home with water safety. You need to have one adult designated to watch the children, to actually be paying attention to the children in the water. You know, I want people to have fun, and I want us to get out and enjoy Independence Day, but we need to make this 4th of July a safe one.
All right, Dr. Malloy, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of these wonderful safety tips about the 4th of July. And thank you all for watching. We hope you have a very safe and happy, healthy Independence Day. If you have any segment ideas you'd like us to look into, you can comment below right here on this video. And don't forget to check out our website. It's HopkinsAllChildren'sHospital.org/newsroom, and you'll find a lot of great resources there as well. Take care. We'll see you next week.